I just want to introduce to you guys Israel Collazo, real estate attorney here in Brockton. Israel, how you doing today?
All is well. All is well. Just want to make sure that's Collazo. Israel Collazo.
Collazo. Double L, double L.
You got that right.
Awesome. Israel, so I know a lot of these questions because, I've done business with you over the last few years, and you're great at what you do. But tell me, where did you grow up?
I'm originally from Puerto Rico, but I moved out here when I was about 4 years old. And so I grew up in Brockton ever since then. And then I went back to Puerto Rico when I was in high school for my high school years. I finished high school my junior and senior year in Puerto Rico, and then moved back here to Brockton and went to undergrad at UMass Lowell, and then went to law school at Mass School of Law. So I've been a Brocktonian basically all my life.
So you still reside in the Brockton area?
I do. I work and reside in the same place.
Nice. So what got you into becoming an attorney and practicing real estate law?
Well, an attorney was easy because I have attorneys in my family. So I wanted to be like one of my uncles is an attorney, and so that was easy. I wanted to do that from the get-go. I wasn't one of those people who went to high school and college not knowing what they wanted. Like, I knew I wanted to be an attorney from elementary school. That was always, people would have, you have your your professional day, and you get to see what you want to say.
Yeah.
People would write basketball player, whatever. I always wrote lawyer in all my stuff. So
nice.
So then real estate was easy because when I graduated law school, before I took the exam, the bar, buddy of mine was a loan officer, and she was the one who said, "Hey, have you considered doing real estate when you pass the bar?" And I was like, "No, I want to do some litigation and some criminal law stuff." But by the time I passed the exam, I was already convinced that it was the way to go because I didn't want to. It was just easier. I enjoyed real estate, and you're in control a lot of the situation in terms of, when you do the closings and being able to pay out everybody. You're not chasing people for money, and it's from the get-go was a win-win situation. It's supposed to be a win-win situation. Seller wants to sell, buyer wants to buy, everybody's happy.
Got it.
As opposed to doing what I really wanted to do, which was criminal law, but you're chasing people down for money, and you have to, you got people's lives in your hands in terms of, people can go to jail for life and all those little things. So it was a no-brainer to just stick with real estate. Even though I did, for like my first year, I dabbled with a little bit of everything. I did divorces, I did real estate, I did criminal work. So a little bit of everything. But after about a year, I knew real estate was the way to go.
So what made you go on your own?
I always went on my own from the get-go. I was I never worked for anybody because when I graduated from law school, I was already a probation officer. And as I told you, I wanted to do some criminal stuff. So I figured, you know what? I have some friends already in the criminal field and the criminal justice field that are helping me out. So at that point, truth be told, I did well economically, financially. There was no way I was going to go work for another attorney, being the new person on the team. And working double the hours, making less, half of the pay that I was making already. So I knew I had to go work for myself if I really wanted to maximize what I was my potential.
Nice. That's awesome. That's good to know, man. So your clientele, who do you mainly, who would you say is your biggest client? Spanish speaking, locals, or a little bit of everybody?
Well, no, mostly Spanish clients. I get those a lot because a lot of the realtors and loan officers that I work with have a lot of they work with a Hispanic population. So there's not too many Hispanic attorneys that doing closings. I may know them. There's probably like 5, if that, maybe 3 to 5 I can count on my hand. But we're all spread out across the state, so it's really hard to get a Hispanic attorney. And as you may know, being Hispanic as well, as a lot of these Hispanics are buying property, signing documents, and not even knowing what they were signing.
I agree.
And so it's important that that we are involved in that community. But I don't, but I also do my share of work for non-Hispanics. It's just that was my niche. Even when I passed the exam, the bar, that was my niche with a lot of the loan officers that I met. I was doing closings all the way in Springfield, Worcester, Fitchburg, Lawrence, because what I did was I reached out to every loan officer and every realtor that I could find in the local papers and stuff that would need a Hispanic attorney.
Yeah.
So that was my niche. I mean, over the years, you know, it just happens to work out like that. But I mean, that's not solely the population that I target.
Got it. One thing I gotta say about working with you the last few years is that you're very organized. And it's good to be working with people that are just as organized as I am, because I like to think I'm organized when it comes to my deals, and not a lot of attorneys are like that.
Well, I mean, probably to a fault, I would say, because I'm extremely organized. I really like to have. I mean, you see, I mean, I've had, for example, I've gone on vacation. I have backup attorneys that cover me. I got 2 attorneys.
Yeah.
And my paralegals is like, when I come in, they go, my goodness, that package was a mess when it came back to me. Like, things were out of place, nothing was in order.
Yeah.
And that's because they're so used to me having a package. You could see, I don't know if you ever noticed when I'm doing a package, I'm always tightening up the package. I'm always cleaning it up. So by the time the end of the closing is done, you don't see documents everywhere getting lost or anything. And so you know, people have name for us when we're over you know, what's the word I'm looking for? When we're over clean like that, people call us or attention and whatever they call us, right? But I'd rather be called that and make sure that everything's on point. And,
no, it's true.
And to give a good report, have a good rapport with the clients as well. Because if they see you're disorganized, they're not trusting you as much.
No, I agree. And it's, I mean, the good thing is like with me, I have like a chart. So like anytime I start a transaction, I know when the PNS is due, when the commitment is due, the target closing. There's always so many dates. But believe it or not, I mean, not a lot of attorneys will hit you up and say, hey, commitment's due tomorrow. What's going on? That's one thing I like when I work with you, because you keep me on my toes and you keep my assistant on her toes too. So it's good.
Well, I'm just like you, sir. I'm like, I confess that I won't be able to remember all those dates on my own. So I have a board in my office as well with everybody's date, closing date, commitments date, sellers, what date they're doing, because you know the idea is to keep as busy as possible. But with that also comes, you know, a lot of work. Then you got to make sure you're on top of all your stuff. And if you're not organized in that, you have a list, wherever it may be. For me, you and I, it's charts on the wall. That's because I'm a visual person. I like to see things in big. Some people might want to put it in the calendar, and that works too. So it works for everybody differently. But for me, I also have, like I said, I like yourself, I have a big whiteboard on my, takes half of the wall. And it has, and I'm looking at it right now, it has all my closing dates. It has all my the buyers, when the buyer's commitments are due, and when the sellers are due to close.
Great to know, man. So a couple of other questions I have. What would you say would be one thing a real estate agent should do in order to have a better transaction with a closing attorney like yourself?
Well, I think we can work hand in hand better in terms of, some agents would like to just, as soon as the PNS signed, they're done. They're done with the PNS. And so they don't worry about the commitment date or anything like that. And they just figure, if there's an attorney, why should I be involved? My thing is, we should always work hand in hand, because the idea is that inevitably the loan officer or the other side, for whatever reason, picks one over the other to talk to the most, right? So it might be a loan officer who feels confident with me, might call me all the time and answer all my calls.
Correct.
So who doesn't know me from a hole in the wall, and rather call Jose Perez and talk to them about the commitment. Right. But now Jose feels like, okay, well, maybe he's already talked to Israel. So I think the communication has to be there as to, hey, you know, the commitment is due today. Did you get it? And not taking the responsibility off the attorney, but at least keeping us on our toes so that we can work together. Just the same thing. For example, sometimes you and I have done this. I've been on vacation and the commitment is due. And, you know, I'll say, hey, Jose, do you mind drafting up the extension? And that works perfectly. There's some agents that, again, you won't hear from them. They won't take a call because that's not their job to do the extension. And that kind of sucks, because we should be working hand in hand, you know, as a team.
Correct. No, correct. I mean, Alex, I think you and I we're good together.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can keep that going and build more.
And there's other times where, for example, if there's there's some stuff that I don't know about that was worked out between the agents.
Yeah.
For me, I like to know.
Yeah.
Maybe I like to know what happened because now I'm the one causing a commotion.
Yeah.
I might be alerting somebody, scaring somebody because I'm asking questions that have already been answered.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I don't think people do it on purpose. I just think it's the day-to-day the business that we have.
Yeah.
And you might forget to call the attorney you're working with and say, hey, we agreed that the furniture is staying, right?
Yeah.
Or we agreed that the oil that's there is going to stay. We're not going to ask for it. Or we agreed that the seller could stay for an extra week at no cost, and some of that stuff, if I don't know about it, now I'm either being alerted by the seller's attorney or the buyer's attorney, and I'm out of the loop. And it makes us look like we're not on the same page.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. If I'm the one asking for all that stuff, and people are saying, "How come you don't know what's going on?" This is, So things like that. And it happens on my side. We just can't assume that the other person already knows.
Got it.
The agent. I can't, and the agent can't assume that the attorney knows.
Yeah.
And we should be on the same team. It takes a 30-second phone call.
Exactly.
Or email.
Yeah, or even a text sometimes.
There you go.
So what's one crazy experience in this business that you can think of that's been bad? I mean, that came out of nowhere. Can you think of something, or? I mean, I bet that
I don't remember too much of the bad things because it won't be in business too long. But well, again, this had nothing to do with the realtor though. So I don't know. I don't think I've had anything that has to actually do with the realtor. I mean, we just had an incident where my buyer got a commitment, was approved. Then the day before, we already worked on the CD. I told him how much I had to bring in. The day before the closing, the file was audited or sent to quality control from the closing department, and the quality control department was not happy with his income.
Wow, really?
Basically disapproved the approval.
Did he lose the deposit?
Huh? No, we were about to, and the seller's attorney and I worked it out. It was like a $25,000 deposit. It was not. It was a lot of money. Although I consider everything a lot of money. No matter what profession I am, people work hard for their money. Exactly. And so I feel even if it's $1,000, I'm always trying to save somebody's money, right?
Yeah.
Because $1,000 might not be a lot to somebody, but it's a huge amount to somebody else who works really hard for that. So it was like 25 grand. And long story short, because the loan officer assured me that what they were looking at was not a deal killer. Mm-hmm. It was going to be a couple of more, maybe 2 or 3 days more. Yeah. We were able to negotiate that $5,000 would be non-refundable if we didn't close, but the other 20 would come back to the buyer. I mean, it hurt the buyer to even agree to that because again, $5,000 is a lot of money, and it hurt me to even say that to him.
Yeah,
but I wanted to save some money because at that point it was nothing we could do to help him. Okay. It was the lender, and the lender always has the fine print. Yeah. On their commitment, saying they reserve the right to change their mind, basically. Yeah. And so that was crazy. That was about a month ago. That was kind of crazy. I mean, it was about 2 days of frustration that I had that it wasn't worried about me because it had nothing to do with me, but I was worried for my client because these people trust you, and no matter what you tell them, you're the last person they talk to, and if you lose your money, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Because you're the last person they spoke to, and they trust you, especially as an attorney. Yeah. Every word we say, they hang on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was one of the craziest things that I had. Another crazy thing that I had with an agent that I don't work with anymore. Yeah. Because it was just ridiculous the way she works. She would undermine what I would say to our sellers. Always had to do with sellers. and talk to the sellers differently. So, for example, I had a number of deals where our sellers would agree to fix repairs, to have repairs.
Yeah.
So let's say there was 6 repairs.
Uh-huh.
She would literally have the seller do 4 of them, and then kind of say, "Don't worry about the other 2," because the buyers are not going to back out. They've gotten this far, they won't back out. You figure they're not going to do the walkthrough at best to the day before.
Exactly.
And so it happened one time, and I was like, "What the heck?" And it actually worked. The buyer's like, "Okay, whatever, we want to close, we have to." Then it happened again, but this time it was a lot of work that didn't get done. And so I called my seller and I said, "Hey, why wouldn't you this work? And the seller told me, "Well, the agent said just to do a few of them." And I was so mad. I called the agent. I said, "You cannot do that. I knew it happened one time, but I couldn't prove it. But this time, this is ridiculous." "Well, they should take it anyway." And I told her, from here on, we never work again. It got to the point where I had to hire somebody to go and finish the work for the seller.
Wow.
Because I was like, this is really not good.
Mm-hmm.
And the seller, we got it done. We got it done. But I can't work with an agent like that.
Damn.
There's no way. And there's not enough amount of money for you to stress me out like that and lose because remember, we're all seen as one.
Yeah.
So now you and I work together and I screw up. It's not that Israel screwed up, it's that Jose and Israel screwed up.
Exactly.
And now if you screw up, it's not Jose, it's Jose and Israel screwed up. And they're 2 companies. So every time I had to deal with her, it was a screw up. The last it fell on me because the attorneys are calling me saying, "Israel, what's wrong with your client?"
Yeah.
And so that's one of the crazy. That was crazy. That's crazy. That was crazy too because that's more agent related than the first story I told you.
Yeah. No. They probably want to be like a superstar in front of the seller, but it's making everybody involved look bad.
Absolutely. No, I don't. I long story short, I don't work with her anymore.
Yeah. When we meet for coffee, I got to know who that person is. I'll keep it hush hush. So getting out of your day to day, let's talk about your after work life. I mean, what do you do for fun?
I enjoy. I got a couple of grandkids. I enjoy hanging with my grandkids. My grandson's about to turn 4. He's doing soccer, so I run around after him, see what he's up to. And I do basketball. I'm NBA sports agent as well.
Nice. Tell me about.
So that keeps me pretty busy trying to get players in, and keeps me running around the country, going back and forth to games, meeting with parents, meeting with kids, and so it's been fun, but I don't want it to be fun. I want it to be work. So I'm trying to. By that I mean we haven't signed a big guy yet. We're working on getting that so that I can then make it fun.
Got it. So you only do basketball? You don't do other sports?
My agency does. We do it. We have basketball, we have football, we have baseball. So I had off as a baseball agency with a buddy of mine, and then I went and got the basketball part. I run the basketball part of it. But so we have women's basketball, we got football, and baseball. But I'm only licensed from the basketball perspective.
Got it. I mean, that seems so awesome. Like to try to go to all these events to try to,
Well, here's the funny thing. That's why I went to law school, to be truthful, to do that.
Yeah.
And then when I finished law school, it was just easier to transition into what I do now, to stop making money.
Yeah.
And I was so scared of the potential of representing millionaires.
Yeah.
That I kind of like panicked and didn't want to try to do it. Because I was like, man, I gotta be honest, I've never worked with no millionaires. and I was raw and I was green and I was like, and you'd have to go work for somebody.
Yeah.
And again, I wasn't prepared to go work for anybody to make less than what I had made already as a probation officer.
Yeah.
Because I had already kids, I was married, I had a house, I had expenses that I couldn't minimize due to a change in income, right?
Yeah.
And so I never even did it. And then my kids were young, and there's a lot of traveling involved. So it wasn't until my youngest daughter went to college that I decided to do it full time. I mean, not to do it full time, to get involved in it.
Yeah.
I've only been doing it for about 4 years.
Damn. So what's your? I mean, when it comes to these, I mean, you go to a lot of basketball games, or do you go to a lot of
college? I go to a lot of college games.
Nice.
Because see, I'm trying to recruit those players to sign.
Yeah.
I go to NBA games for fun. I
Yeah.
go to college games for work.
Yeah.
But once you sign them, then you're going to NBA games for work as well.
Got it. Got it.
Right. And
Yeah.
so the idea is to get as many players as possible through before they get drafted. But it's also the possibility of signing players who already have agents who are not happy with them, which is a lot of them, because a lot of them are told one thing and then the agents don't deliver, or the agents don't pay attention to them because they didn't pan out to be the superstars that they were supposed to be coming out of college.
Yeah.
Right. So now you don't see them, you don't see the agents around because, hey, you're just another guy on the, that we represent. As opposed now, if you're the next LeBron, now I'm calling you 2 or 3 times a day, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're a fringe player who barely makes the team, I might only call you once a year. So those guys, I try to get a hold of those guys as well, so that way, show them some love, and hopefully they'll, at some point when if I represent them, they won't be that player no more. They'll be a little bit better.
Damn, that's interesting. That seems like something I would love to do.
Well, ideally, that's what I want to do on a full-time basis.
Yeah.
If I do that, and if I get some players where now, obviously the income will surpass, way what I would be making now as an attorney.
Yeah.
Then there's no need for me to do two things.
Got it.
Right. And I would probably wind down doing the closing part at some point. Right. Yeah. My oldest daughter is just about to take the bar exam in February. So there's a possibility that she could come in and just kind of do the heavy work, and I just kind of behind the scenes and focus more on the sports. Now that's if that door opens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So that's your long-term goal, is basically to phase out of it a little bit and then maybe go explore, the NBA agent. That's your 5-10 year goal.
Yep.
That's good, man. That's good. It's always good to plan ahead, man. Set
absolutely.
So that's awesome. Another question I have for you. So on a weekend when you're on vacation, what's your favorite place to go, or what's your favorite food to eat when you're out and about?
Oh, I'm a steak and potatoes guy.
Just like me.
That's me, brother. You give me some steak, filet mignon, prime rib all day, every day.
So what's your favorite steakhouse around here?
Well, because it's close, I love going down to right down here in Easton.
Okay.
What's the name of it? Stone Forge.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm not really a big steakhouse, but I like the filet mignon there. But I mean, I've been to all kind of restaurants to get the steak in Boston, like Ruth's Chris. There's a couple of restaurants that I like. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a steak guy, but I love my Spanish food, man. I can eat that.
Oh, yeah. No. I love my Spanish food, but I eat that every day. My wife cooks every day, and so that's so I eat Spanish. I eat rice and beans on a daily basis.
Nice. What kind of music do you listen to when you're trying to kind of forget about work life? I mean, do you listen to Spanish music? What kind of music do you listen to?
I listen to Christian music.
Christian music.
That's the most that you'll hear in my car or in my house will be Christian music. And my playlist, I'm a man of faith, so I like to listen to music that inspires and that makes me feel good. Now, nothing against the other music. I like my R&B, my hip hop, but you won't, I mostly just to know what my kids were listening to when they were growing up.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you're gonna listen, and I like my Spanish music. I love my salsa music, and so, but for the most part, you're gonna listen. You're gonna hear me listening to some Christian music, mostly gospel music.
That's great. Awesome. So the last question would be, in 30 seconds or less, tell me what Israel Collazo does for a living, and how buyers, sellers, or anyone that needs help with real estate law can get a hold of you.
Well, my job is to help buyers and sellers achieve their real estate goals, right? Either selling or buying. For the most part, I mostly represent a lot of the lenders as well, because it goes hand in hand with representing buyers. And so my objective is to make sure that whether I represent a seller or a buyer, they know, they feel confident that when the closing is done, they know everything that was done. They feel confident that they know what they're paying for, what they're getting in return, and all their questions have been answered. The worst thing is to ask somebody a question about their closing 3 years later, and they don't know anything that would happen, right?
True.
And so, for my part, it gives me comfort and joy to know that my clients left the closing table knowing that they understood every single document that they signed, and that they're okay with all the explanation that we did. I like to. I don't have a preference as to who to represent. Um, Obviously, for me, from a financial point of view, it's easy. It's better for me if I represent the buyer and the lender. But I also enjoy representing sellers because I know that they need equal as representation. And for me, and it's a totally different job of what I'm doing for the buyer as respect to what I'm doing for the seller. And for me, it's equally a joy to do either one. So anyone out there who's looking for any real estate conveyancing representation, they can always call me. Reach out to us at Collazo Title and Closings PC. We're in Brockton at 130 Liberty Street, Suite 9. Our phone number is 508-559-1302. And the email you can use is the general one for the office, which is closings with an S at the end, closings at collazotitle.com. And that's CLOSINGS at COLLAZOTITLE.com. That goes straight to our head paralegal, and she would have answer any questions anyone might have.
Awesome. I have one quick question because I was thinking about this on the deal that we got right now going on that we're representing the seller. When someone is going through a divorce and there's only one name on the deed, what's the best way to go about it? The reason I'm asking is because in the situation that we're going through now, sometimes I get a text from the ex-wife wanting updates, and I keep telling her that she should get the update from the attorney that's helping her. Is
Right.
the right way to do it, or what's the better way would you recommend?
Well,
in the loop.
I mean, the first thing that you want to ask is your client, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's our client. Hey, listen, your ex-wife is calling.
Yeah.
You want to know some details. Are you okay with me explaining things in general?
Yeah.
Me being specific, or me not saying anything at all?
Yeah.
Right? That's for both of us. That goes for both of us.
Yeah.
If our client is okay, then we'll do what the client wants, right?
Got it.
Understanding that there is, if they've already got divorced or in the middle of divorce, 9 out of 10 times there's already something in place to make life easier for us, called a separation agreement.
Yep.
And if the separation agreement, it will be on title anyways.
Yeah.
So when I get it, that is public information. Anybody can get that.
Okay.
So therefore, we're not sharing any information that we shouldn't be sharing.
Okay.
Right. So for example, when we run the title and it says, hey, your client is in the middle of divorce, the wife is subject or the husband is subject to half of the real estate, well then we can talk to that other attorney.
Yeah.
Because it's already public notice, right?
Okay.
So that we're not doing anything we're not divulging any information that we shouldn't be. So in the case where the ex-spouse is calling, or even the attorney, I probably give more credence to the attorney than to the spouse, only because they're going to be calling all the time.
Okay.
I would say that from your perspective, you're probably okay if you don't want to share too much, or you want to just not, you don't think you feel comfortable sharing information. You might say, hey, have your attorney reach out to your ex-husband's attorney.
Got it.
That always keeps you safe. You don't look like a bad guy. You don't look like you're trying to be deceitful or anything. You're just telling the truth.
Got it.
From my perspective, if I will talk to the other attorney with respect to keeping it general and making sure that I always talk to my client. In our case, as soon as I got that email from the other attorney, I called him.
Got it.
And make sure I say, hey, I got a correspondence from so and so. They're saying that you and have a divorce. Now, see, I wouldn't have a title, and I wouldn't have known that because I only represent the seller. So as a seller, we wouldn't have requested it. We would have requested a title. So I would have never known he was divorced or in the middle of a divorce if he doesn't tell me.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes we may or may not ask that question.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the question I always ask is, are you married?
Yeah.
Well, when I asked him that before we drafted the deed, he said he wasn't. He was single. Well, he didn't lie to me.
Yeah.
He told the truth.
Yeah.
I drafted the deed and wrote that he was a single man.
Yeah.
Everything was up and nobody's hiding anything. The problem is now that he didn't. I don't think he did it purposefully. The problem is that his answer should have been, "Well, I just recently got divorced, and I might have, I did some. There's an agreement that I have to give my ex-wife some money from this." So I didn't find that out from my client.
Yeah.
I found it out through the ex-spouse's attorney, who's now looking for money.
Got it. Okay.
And so, but once he and I spoke about it, he was like, "Oh yeah, no, that's not." In fact, he would turn around and send me the separation agreement himself that says, "Oh yeah, she's entitled to this," right? So to answer your question, for your purposes, you would want to ask your client if he or she is okay speaking to the spouse or the ex-spouse, but you're always safe by saying to the ex-spouse or the other person, "Hey, at this point, I would just rather have the attorneys talk about it."
Got it. You
know?
Yeah.
And leave it at that. So there's really no right or wrong way. It's just being careful and covering yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Great answer, like always. But appreciate your time, Israel. If you have any questions with real estate, law, contracts, please reach out to Israel. We'll put his contact info in the link. Please reach out. He'll definitely be available to help anyone. So thank you for your time, Israel. We'll be in touch, and let's do more deals together.
I appreciate you. Thank you again. Thank you for you and your team putting your confidence and your trust in our services, in our office, and in me. And I apologize I couldn't get this camera to work. It was working previously, so I don't know what just happened. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
No problem, Israel. You have a great day, my man.
You too. Take care. God bless.
Bye.
El gatito tuyo te perdió por negligencia.